quando sei qui con me. Questa stanza non ha più pareti, ma alberi, alberi infiniti quando tu sei vicino a me. Questo soffitto violaceo.
Used gun of the month, Beretta 84 BB Cheetah.
Io vedo il cielo.
We're out at the beautiful Banner shooting range for another exciting edition of a series we haven't done in a while, Used Gun of the Month. What used guns do we have today? Well, one that gets mentioned in the comments semi-frequently, not that one, another one, the Beretta 84 BB. This is I believe the third generation of the 84 series, which is what the BB stands for, but it is the previous model of what is now the 80X Cheetah. So today we're going to put this new to us pistol through its paces at Banner shooting range. I have a full-size silhouette set up out there at 7 yards for our first test. We're going to do a handful of magazines. We'll start off with the 13 rounds of Blazer aluminum 95 grain full metal jacket. And what we're going to do here today is we're going to look at how accurate, how reliable, what's the recoil, how good is the trigger. We're going to talk about some of the features and differences between this and the 80X, because even though they're both Cheetahs in that 80 series family, there are some what I would call noticeable differences between the 84 BB and the newer 80X. Like, for example, right off the bat, you can tell there's no attachment rail. But one of the other big differences between this 84 BB and the 80X is on the 80X, you have a decocker safety, whereas on the 84 BB, that is just a safety. And what that enables you to do is you can actually have the hammer cocked, safety on, and it will disconnect the trigger. So you can carry this, shall we say, 1911 style with that cocked and locked with the safety on and hammer back. Let's go ahead and load around into the firearm. I'm going to drop the hammer and we'll do our first shot double action. Now this is a surplus pistol. I believe they come from, of course, Italy by Beretta, but I believe this firearm originally was on, I'm going to call their version of the IRS. There's a little GF stamped on the frame here, which I believe stands for something like Guardia di Finance. I obviously don't speak Italian, so I butchered that. And to me, that sounds like the IRS. Interesting they get to carry guns, but hey, we don't live there, whatever. So today, let's look at this firearm. I'm pretty darn sure that the person who had this before me bought it from PSA. I didn't buy it from PSA. I bought it from a local gun store on the used shelf. Though the reason I'm 99% sure it came from PSA is the lock that was in the box is a PSA lock. So I find it hard to believe my local store would have PSA locks. Anyway, I believe this firearm would be considered good condition, not very good, not mint. There is some holster wear on it, a little bit around the front of the barrel, a little bit on the sides. A mosquito is trying to take an ounce of blood out of me. There's a little on the beaver tail, though other than that, it seems to be in good condition. No, well, there's a little bit of wear on the inside. I think it was shot a little bit, but not very much. So anyway, let's put some rounds through the firearm and see how it functions. With this being a duty style firearm, if I was going to be carrying it, instead of cocked and locked, I would have safety off, hammer down, where that first trigger pull, long double action trigger pull, acts as my safety. But of course, with it having that safety, it's not a decocker. If you wanted to do cocked and locked, you can. So anyway, here we go, 13 shots. I'll do the center mass on our target. Here we go. Okay, it looks like 12 of 13 are in the critical zone of that 9 ring. 13 for 13 in the 9 ring. Of course, so far, all 13 rounds fired, which is good. Hard to complain about that accuracy or reliability so far. The sights on this firearm are what they call dot and post, which is where the front sight is a white dot sight. The rear sight, which I'll show you a picture of this, has a square post where you line up the dot with the post in between the notch of your rear sight as your sight picture. So let me go ahead and reload our magazine now with another 13 rounds, probably Winchester white box, but I'll let you know. For round number's sake, I've loaded 10 rounds in our 13 round magazine. This is the Winchester white box range and target, 95 grain full metal jacket. Though unlike our Blazer ammo, this has that round nose flat point that gives some firearms problems. Let's see if it functions reliably out of our 84 BB here today. Here we go, 10 shots. I'll do these at the cranium zone of the target. And I'm going to do that first shot, single action. Here we go. Okay, it didn't lock the slide back on our final round that time. Let me load 10 more of the Winchester. I'm tempted to say all 10 are in the cranium zone with a handful in that critical area. Though we'll need target cam to verify that. Let's do 10 more and we'll see if it doesn't lock the slide back on this 10 like it did on the previous 10. A little steamy out here today. We're at about 90 degrees with some humidity, not brutal humidity like earlier in the summer, but enough to make it uncomfortable. So we have a little bit of the sweaty palms effect going on, but not bad. Here we go. And what I'll do here is my first shot with this 10 will be double action, again at the cranium zone. Here we go. With our Winchester ammo so far, not locking the slide back after the final round. And I'm tempted to say all 10 of 10 are also in the cranium zone. Looks like we have a fairly tight group just above what we'll call the critical area on that target. The Beretta 84 BB Cheetah is a compact double stack magazine fed pistol chambered in .380 ACP. It is 6.8 inches long, 4.8 inches high, 1.4 inches wide, and weighs in at 22.4 ounces unloaded. This pistol has a 3.81-inch alloy steel barrel. It has an ambidextrous thumb safety, a double action to single action trigger, is external hammer fired with a straight blowback action. The 84 BB has a blued stainless steel slide. It has an alloy steel barrel and frame. This version was introduced in 1982. Compared to the previous version of the Cheetah, the 84 BB has more slide serrations, a white dot and post sight. It has a wider guide rod and recoil spring. The BB denotes brevitato. I probably butchered that. I apologize, Italians, which denotes it being the second alteration of the design. This firearm is double stack magazine fed and came with a 13 round magazine, giving it a capacity of 13 plus 1. The 84BB has a ambidextrous frame-mounted safety. Push up for safety on, down for safety off. Note, it is not a decocker, which allows you to carry the firearm with the safety engaged and hammer back, or condition 1, which is referred to often as cocked and locked. The trigger on the 84BB is a double action to single action trigger. In double action mode off my gauge, the trigger pull is around 7 pounds 10 ounces, and in single action mode, that's around 3 pounds. The sights on the 84BB are called a dot and post sight. You can see the white dot on the front blade with the post, a white square in the middle of the rear sight. The front sight is integrated in with the slide, though the rear sight is in a dovetail and it appears to be replaceable. Field stripping the 84BB is done in the same fashion as the popular 92 series pistols. With an empty and unloaded firearm, rotate the takedown lever down. You can then push the barrel and slide off the firearm. Once off the firearm, you can separate the barrel, guide rod, and recoil spring from the slide for easy cleaning and maintenance of all the components. Reverse the process to reassemble your firearm. Many of these 84BB firearms that you'll find on used store these shelves, and for at least the last few years, have been Italian surplus pistols. They are frequently stamped with GF, which denotes they were issued to the Guardia di Finanza service. Again, I apologize for butchering that, which at first glance appears to be a type of Italian IRS or customs, which we'll come back to that later in today's video. The 84BB is an accurate, reliable, easy to shoot .380 that can be carried in both condition 1 and condition 2. It has an ambidextrous safety, mild recoil. Many people will like that it has a metal frame, slide, and barrel, and it can be found for much cheaper these days than what a new ADX goes for. On the downside, it's an older design that is not optics ready and has no attachment rail, which are kind of popular these days. It's blowback operated, giving it slightly more felt recoil than many people expect from a pistol this size, and it does not have a decocker, which some people prefer in a duty style firearm. We're going to finish off a box of Blazer. This is the last 9 that were in that box. I'm going to do 1 shot with my two-handed right-handed grip, 4 shots right-handed, 4 shots left-handed to finish off this 9 rounds of leftover in that box. And we're going to see with the Blazer ammo if it actually locks the slide back on empty again. Here we go. First shot will be double action. Here we go. And I'm going to aim for the number 7 that's about here, just below the neckline on the target. Here we go. Okay, so my counting a little terrible. We might have to, I don't know, oil the magazine or maybe even put a fresh magazine spring in. It looks like we're not getting the lock back on empty after our first magazine here today. Not the end of the world. Okay, we have 8 of 9 on the target. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll say 6. Fairly close to the number 7 I was aiming at. 1 at the chin, 1 around maybe the ear, and 1 just off the neck on the left side of the target. So, one-handed shooting. I would say better than many of the 380s that we shoot on the channel. And with some practice, dare I say, we might even be a little competent with it. All right, another test we're going to do here now is I have a magazine for the 80X Cheetah. I have it loaded with 10 rounds of the Winchester White Box. Let's see if it functions in our 84BB. If it does, I'm going to aim at the number 8 that we'll say is around the belly button of our full-size target. Here we go. Okay. It seems to see. Does it feed? Survey says first round feeds. Let's see how it functions. Here we go. And our slide even locked back on empty. Nice. Might as well do one more mag. Here we go. We'll do these with our left-handed, two-handed grip. Okay, failure to feed on that last round. That could have been the sweaty palms effect. I won't rule that out. It seems like on firearms, when I have to deal with the sweaty palms effect, that if I'm going to have a failure, it's usually when I'm doing the left-handed, two-handed grip shooting for whatever reason. Our group isn't the tightest group out there, though. It looks like we at least put the majority of our shots on the target. Nice. To finish out the range portion of the day with our Beretta 84BB, we're going to do 10 rounds of Hornady American Gunner. This has... Okay, I'm glad I looked. I was going to say 95. This has the 90 grain XTP projectile. Extreme Terminal Performance. Let's see how the Beretta 84BB, with a very short sample, mind you, handles some hollow point defensive ammo. We're going to shoot at the 8-inch target. Here we go. Okay, other than the first shot, what we'll call flyer, it looks like our next 9 are a pretty tight group, sort of on the border of the bullseye in what we'll call the 10 ring. Hard to complain about that level of accuracy. Again, short sample, but all 10 shots fired reliably, and we had the hold open on empty just fine. Let's dive into the graphics portion and the conclusion of today's video now. Found on used store shelves in that $300 to $400 ballpark, the Beretta 84BB might be one of the best value for money buys available today. Some stores will put the oceanfront property and Arizona buzzwords in front of it, talking about how they are rare and collectible, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. Garda de Finance sounds like fancy talk for IRS, but take a look at this list of what that group does. At least 16 different important tasks. To me, that suggests there's a ton more officers in that group than what the name implies. It seems like every week I see another listing for another batch of these pistols being imported, a steady stream of surplus imports undercuts that rare and collectible buzzword mix. But on the bright side, that's a good thing for those of us looking for a fantastic used 380. The 84BB we shot today feels like a good representation of what you get in these used surplus pistol deals. A firearm that has been clearly used, but not abused. The blued finish on this pistol shows obvious signs of use, like wear marks on the slide, barrel, and raised surfaces that show it wasn't just some safe queen sitting on a shelf its whole life. I could be wrong here, and if so, correct me in the comments, but I want to say the 84BB was produced between 1982 through 1987, before being replaced by the 84F version, making the age of these pistols in that 40-ish year range. All these years later, the 84BB still finds itself still relevant in the 380 marketplace today. Is it as concealable as the LCPs and the bodyguards, or as feature-packed as the P365 380s and the 80Xs? No, but what it lacks in concealability and modern features, it more than makes up for in performance. The 84BB has it where it matters most: accuracy, reliability, and ease of use. Look at this target from today. Not the greatest target in the history of the world, but when put side by side with first targets from other 380s on the channel, and we see a group far better than most that will only get better with more practice. Like most older firearms, one big advantage the 84BB has over modern 380s is in the trigger. It has a trigger less influenced by product liability lawyers, with more time dedicated to meeting expectations. In both single action and double action modes, there is little to no take up on the trigger. The reset is crisp with no over travel. The pull weights are at a very manageable level. The 80X is maybe the only modern 380 that comes to mind as being close, but even it with its upgraded trigger isn't quite at the same level as the classics. The dot and post sights are easy to use. They find the target quick and return to it quickly after the first shot for follow-up shots. With a metal frame, slide, and barrel, the 84BB has some weight behind it, weighing in around 22.4 ounces. That mass helps it absorb recoil well and be very controllable. Like others in the Cheetah family, it has a straight blowback action, giving it a little more felt recoil than some would expect for a pistol this size and weight, but being chambered in 380, that recoil is still quite minor. While the 84BB is larger than many popular 380s of today, one big advantage that gives it, at least for me, is in the grip. On the very thin 380s, like say those bodyguards and LCPs, for example, my natural grip, I'll shoot groups a little to the left, and I have to use a different grip to get a straight trigger pull. One-handed and two-handed, I'm able to use my natural grip with the 84BB and get a straight trigger pull that puts my shots more centered on the target. All in all, the 84BB finds itself with a better trigger than most modern 380s, a size that's easy to control, accuracy plus, with decent to good capacity, and priced in that $300 to $400 ballpark. Even with 40-ish years of age behind it, the 84BB might be one of the best 380s available today. Well, let us know what you think about that in the comments. Do you agree, or do you have a better 380 option in that same ballpark used? Let us know in the comments. Well, anyway, that seems like the perfect spot to end today's video. If you enjoyed today's presentation, like the video, share it with your friends and family. Those things are free, and they really help the channel greatly. If you didn't like today's video, well, like it anyway. No one's going to know you did it, and it helps us out a lot. Fred and I really appreciate you getting this far. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a nice night.
Sopra noi che restiamo qui.
We're out at the beautiful Banner shooting range for another exciting edition of a series we haven't done in a while, Used Gun of the Month. What used gun do we have today? We're at the beautiful Banner shooting range for another exciting Cheetah video. Today, our Beretta 80X Cheetah is going to go head-to-head in a quick range session with the Beretta 84BB Cheetah.
Per te, per per me.